Hello, dear students. Welcome to DK English Pathshala. Let's start today's chapter that is on the face of it, and we are going to present the PPT summary of this lesson. This is a brief summary of the lesson. This is composed by Suzanne Hill, and this is the lesson number 5th in your book Vistas of Class 12th English. Let's begin this one. Let's know about Suzanne Hill. Suzanne Hill is the composer of this lesson. You can see her picture there, and then brief introduction about her. She is a British writer, and she was born in 1942. Her notable works are, the first work is The Woman in Black, and the second one is The Mist in the Mirror. So this was all about the writer of this lesson on the face of it. Now next, meet the main characters. There are two main characters in this lesson. The first one is Derek, and the second one character is Mr. Lamb. So you can see the picture of Derry there, and you can see the picture of Mr. Lamb also there. If you see the picture of Derry, you will find that one side of his face is burnt, and if you look at Mr. Lamb, he is sitting, and his one leg is actually blown off, and he is wearing an artificial leg at that time. So he also is disabled, and Derry also is disabled, but both are disabled in different ways. One has got the face burnt, and another one has got a tin leg. Now let's talk about Derry. The first character. Derry is a boy of 14 years only. He has got a burnt face. One side of his face is burnt because of acid, and remains very depressed because of his burnt face. He is full of pessimism because he feels face is everything. So this is the purpose also of the lesson, to make you feel that face is not everything. Handsome is that handsome does, means what you are from inside, that keeps importance. Your face does not keep importance. This is the purpose of the lesson, to make you understand. According to him, his face has eaten his personality and career. This is the thinking of Derry. He complains of his parents also. His mother kisses him, but that also on the other side of the face. So these all things were about Derry. He thinks in that way. Another thing, he has a complaint to other people of the society also, who stare and mock at him. Because of that, he feels uneasy. So there is another lesson for other people also, that the persons whoever are disabled, we should not have a staring and mocking at those, because they are also the creation of the God. We should help them, we should sympathize with them, and should sympathize also in that way that they do not feel bad. He has heard many positive stories and quotes, but he thinks these stories and quotes are not going to change his face. Many people have told him positive stories and positive quotes, but it has not made any effect on him. He says that these all things are not going to change his face, because his face is supreme. He is a withdrawn and defiant boy who does not like to mix with family. He believes that everyone whom we talk cannot be friends. He is withdrawn. Withdrawn means withdrawn from society. Defiant means one who defies each and everything. And he is a kind of boy who remains away from the society. He does not want to mix with family. He believes that everyone whom we talk cannot be friends. So, this is his opinion. Now, let's talk about Mr. Lamb. Mr. Lamb is just opposite of Derry. While Derry is full of negativity, Mr. Lamb is full of positivity. He is an army man. He lost his leg in a war. He has a tin leg. The real leg blew into an explosion during war. He is full of optimism. He is full of hopefulness. He does not care of his tin leg, because he thinks the God has blessed him with the remaining body. So just to thank him, why to get depressed? This is his thinking. While Derry is quite opposite of that. Derry is very concerned about his face, and he remains always cursing his face only. Because of that, he cannot concentrate on his remaining part of the body. While Mr. Lamb is does not care of his tin leg, he is rather very much pleased by having the remaining body in a solid way. He is alone. He lives in a big house with garden. He enjoys his time with plants and bees. In this way, he gets his attention diverted from his tin leg. He thinks everything made by the God is beautiful, nothing is useless. He likes to grow weed garden. Weed garden, weeds are unwanted plants, but he likes to grow them. It means to say extreme positivity is there within Mr. Lamb. He keeps the door of his house open. He does not believe in keeping the windows shut and with curtains because he does not like to stop light and darkness. He is fond of both the things. He thinks that we should not be a barrier to the nature's activity. Kids call him Lame Lem, but he enjoys it because he feels it suits him. Kids make fun of him by calling him Lame Lem, but he does not bother it. He does not mind it. He enjoys it because he thinks, what's wrong in that? If they say Lame Lem, because he is Lame Lem, it suits him. He makes jelly using apples and toffee by honey. He is fond of books, and people think he is a mysterious man. Why do people think he is a mysterious and eccentric man? Because he lives in such a big house, and that also alone, and that also is having with a huge garden. Also, he is having, and another thing, he is a handicapped person, and not much people know about him. That's why they think he is a mysterious person. Now, how the story goes: Derry enters into the house of Mr. Lamb. Mr. Lamb is in the garden of the house. Derry likes the garden. He enters into the garden, but not by the door, not by the gate, but by wall, as he thinks no one is there. Mr. Lamb startles Derry by talking as he is unaware of his presence. Mr. Lamb, when he starts to talk, Derry is not aware of his presence. That's why he is surprised. They both start to talk. Derry talks of his face, while Mr. Lamb talks of nature, his house, and hobbies and landscape. So Derry is very much depressed about his face only, while Mr. Lamb does not talk about any face, any leg. He talks only of nature, of his house, and hobbies. Derry expresses his extreme disappointment for his face. Mr. Lamb tries his best to divert Derry's attention from his face towards other things. Initially, Derry does not show any interest. Gradually, he is attracted towards Mr. Lamb. Why is he attracted towards Mr. Lamb? Because of Mr. Lamb's positive things, because of Mr. Lamb's effort to search positivity in everything. He feels Mr. Lamb talks peculiar. Peculiar means strange, yet he is very interesting. Mr. Lamb tells him many positive things and stories. Towards the end of the lesson, Derry is highly influenced by Mr. Lamb's positivity. What are the evidence for that? What is the evidence for that? While departing from there, he makes a promise of returning back to Mr. Lamb. This is the evidence. And he not only makes the promise, but also he comes back defying his own mother. That means to say, he is attracted towards Mr. Lamb. He is very much impressed by Mr. Lamb's positivity. Derry knows very well that his mother will not allow, yet he makes promise. Mr. Lamb breaks crab apples using a ladder and accidentally falls on the ground and dies. This happens when Derry is not there. Derry comes back defying his mother. When he finds the dead Mr. Lamb, he weeps for him. And when the person weeps for him, for only those people who are the loved ones, and he starts to love Mr. Lamb only because of his positivity, only because of his positive thoughts, only because he was the person who forced him or who motivated him to talk on other topics rather than his face. So in this way, the story ends, and Derry's negativity is vanished by Mr. Lamb's positivity. Now you can see some important questions on the screen. Compare and contrast Derry and Mr. Lamb. Here you have to compare the character sketches of Derry and Mr. Lamb. Derry is full of negativity, while Mr. Lamb is full of positivity. Both are disabled. Derry has got burnt face, while Mr. Lamb has got a thin leg. Yet Derry only talks about his face, Mr. Lamb talks about nature, and Derry is very much confined to his face only, while Mr. Lamb talks about white things. In this way, you can make a compare and contrast between the character sketch of Derry and Mr. Lamb. How did Mr. Lamb's positivity bring about a change in Derry? You have to write here what efforts did actually Mr. Lamb take to make a change in Derry. Why did Derry's mother not allow him to go to Mr. Lamb? Because she thought he was a mysterious person because he lived alone in such a big house with such a big garden and no one talked to him. That's why his mother did not allow him to go to Mr. Lamb. Why did Derry want to come? Because Derry was very much influenced by the positivity of Mr. Lamb. He thought that Mr. Lamb was talking of those things which he liked to talk. So he wanted to come. What is a message hidden for society in the play on the face of it? Actually, there are two messages. The first message is for all the teenage people, that they should not be worried of their face, although this is the reality of the society, that only face value is the bigger value. But we have to think that, again, we have to come on that line, that handsome is that handsome does. It is not the outward beauty, but the inward beauty is the supreme. Initially, outward beauty may win, but ultimately, inward beauty only has to win. And another thing, for another message for all the society people is there, those people who are disabled, we should not mock them, we should not try to insult them, because they also are the creation of the God, and we should sympathize with them in that way that they do not feel good, they do not feel bad. That is the message for both. Why does Mr. Lamb not have curtains in his house? Because he does not want to disrupt light and darkness. He loves both the things, and so he does not want to be the barrier in the nature's course or nature's action. Thank you very much for watching. Please like, share, and subscribe our channel, DK English Pathshala. Thank you again.